Welcome to another episode of Monster Monday from the Ready to Die channel. This series explores the design of a creature I have built for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. The stat block for this creature can be found over on the Monster Monday blog, as well as the Twitter and Discord, all of which are linked below. It is time for yet another original monster, this time featuring the Bark-born Bombardier, the Mangrove Artillerist. Incidentally, I think this is like the third plant monster I've built in a row, so Mary quite contrary, I guess we know how my garden grows. Though, in truth, I took some inspiration from the relatively recent Rage of Elements, and built this creature as a wood elemental, rather than just a pure plant. They are a creation of this plane, meant to serve as living siege engines to battle against other planes, or civilization when it encroaches upon the natural places of the world a bit too far. With that being the case, it has the elemental and wood traits, but it is also rife with plant life, leading to the inclusion of that trait as well. There was nothing really deciding its level, but I knew I wanted a moderately powerful creature to serve as a defender of the plane of wood's interests, while also filling in some of the lighter levels for original monsters that I've made, which led to it being a level 12 creature. The entire concept behind the Artillerist, evidenced by its name, is a ranged combatant, and to that end it uses a high dexterity score, which might seem strange given its lumbering shape. In reference to that, it uses a moderate strength and constitution, allowing it to better soldier through encounters for its commanding cops. Its mental capabilities leave a little something to be desired since it is intended to simply follow orders and rain attacks from afar. However, I still gave it a high perception bonus since it does need to pick out its target and built this creature somewhat around the concept of the sniper roadmap. Given the distance it prefers to operate at, it is armed with only a moderate acrobatics and athletics, while nature ends up being its highest skill. However, while its stealth is normally low, when in the proper environment, its bonus actually becomes high since it can hide among the trees and other vegetation that it shares its shape with. Following testing, this creature did actually need some revisions, and one of these I even made mid-monster mash. I had initially designed it with a high armor class, but changed that to a low value, since this made a creature, which already has means and wants to keep creatures at range, a bit too safe. It's still healthy with a moderate pool of hit points as it is a burly son of a birch, but its saving throws are a little lacking. Its fortitude and reflex saves are both moderate, whereas its will is low, which also changed from the test. Formerly, fort and reflex were high and will was terrible, but again this made it a little too safe, a little too secure in its position, and led me to adjusting them. Like several wooden creatures, it has a vulnerability to axes, but has many of the immunities associated with elementals, such as an immunity to bleed, paralyzed, poison, and sleep. While this creature is designed to fight at range, it is equipped with a melee attack in the form of its foot strikes, which have a moderate attack bonus and deal moderate damage, while also being equipped with the agile trait. However, the main attack of the Artillerist are its trunk cannons, a pair of massive cannons formed from hollow logs. These cannons use a high attack bonus, but keep a damage closer to a low value. But to really discuss these, we need to take a look at the trunk cannon ability. This details how the trunks function in that there are two of them, and each takes a single action to reload. When Artillerist reloads, it can choose from a list of ammunition: water, which pushes enemies back, spores that muddle the mind, splinters that shred flesh, seeds which burrow and drain their victims, or putrid rotting fruit. These extra effects, most of which players don't get a save against, are what decided the lower damage, though the water gets a little bit more damage since it has the most benign effect. I did actually have to lower this damage as well in the Monster Mash, because while my initial values were right for the average, the max damage rolls were way too high, and with the crits I was able to land thanks to a high attack bonus, this foresty fighter was felling foes in a furious frenzy. Now, as I said, most of these effects don't have a save associated with them. The exception to this is Sapping Seeds, which I designed as a poison both to make it easier to contend with, and because I wasn't sure what else it would be. I'd initially designed it just as an affliction, but that made it much harder to deal with for the players. Given its ability to happen on an attack that doesn't require any cooldown, it has a moderate save DC and starts off simply by slowing enemies, as the seeds rapidly begin to grow from their wounds and tangle their limbs. This advances to off guard as they begin to bind the limbs of the victim, before growing into fully immobilized. From there, they begin draining their life until finally they consume the subject entirely and eventually grow into a new Mangrove Artillerist. Conceptually, I'm a huge fan of this ability and I wanted to keep it in, but I definitely had to rework it a bit. In the Monster Mash, this ended up posthumously killing a character, and while this was in part due to bad rolls, it was also influenced by the fact that the players had no way of helping their affected ally, and that the drain came on too fast, making it all that much harder to actually succeed on the save. So, what you see before you is the adjusted version, which I, and the players that suffered from it, are content with. The Artillerist has a few more abilities, which largely facilitate its ranged combat. For example, Sylvan Sharpshooter lets the Mangrove Artillerist overcome its favorite environment to still rain down ruination on its rivals. Now, while I did reduce the defenses of the Artillerist, it has replenishing reload that it can only use once per round to net it some temporary hit points, while also reloading its weapon. This helps it hang in the fight after players manage to close in on it, because while it wasn't an issue in the encounter we ran, Reactive Strike can definitely make a mess of this creature, which will hopefully be offset by this feature. The Artillerist is designed to fight and keep enemies at range, and to that end it has Dig In. This immobilizes the Artillerist as it drives its root and trunks into the ground, soaking up the nutrients there. This adds the volley trait to its trunk cannons, meaning that it starts taking penalties on attack rolls under that range, but doubles its range increment and causes its strikes to hit in an area. This is what really makes this creation into an Artillerist, letting it bombard groups of enemies at a great range and forcing them to scatter. But to stop that from happening, to keep enemies bunched up and ripe for the bombardment, the Mangrove Artillerist is equipped with a few spells that use a high DC and spell attack bonus. Entangling Flora creates a vast area of difficult terrain that slows creatures inside of it, with Tangling Creepers doing much the same, but having the added benefit of being able to lash out and drag victims back into their midst. Rounding out the activated abilities of this Mangrove-made Munitions Master is Cannon Leap, which is silly, but a fun ability meant to help protect it slightly. It is honestly a little hard to pull off, requiring both cannons to be loaded, and it does actually trigger Reactive Strike, but at least in the Monster Mash, it used this ability to great effect, allowing it to get out of flanks, and part of that was helped by its swampy environment. Because while the Artillerist's speed is nothing impressive, it has Swamp Stride, a passive effect that allows it to easily navigate its boggy biomes. This floral foe saw quite a number of revisions from the Monster Mash, but that's exactly why I do them, to present you all with a finely finished foe to frighten your friends with. This Arboreal Artillerist achieves absolute annihilation of adversaries from afar with abnormal ammunition. As an elemental, this creature is probably going to be serving the interests of its plane, but the heroes might encounter one with its own design or that believes mortals are inherently a threat. This makes it a versatile villain to use, but I can't shake the idea that it would be really fun to use it in an actual siege, where the heroes are trying to defend the castle walls when a few of these roll up on them. But let me know what you think of this creature and what others you would like to see in a comment. If you want to see other monsters I've done, or even the stat blocks and other versions of this monster, check out the Monster Monday blog or Twitter, linked below. Thank you for watching, and have a monstrous Monday.